every draft, the phrase "oh well, it matters where he goes" is so overused, but it's applicable to every single person, and no one's situation proof. But a guy in this class who I think has immense amounts of talent, but maybe a little more reliant on situation than Paulo, is AJ Griffin, who has had a real roller coaster to his draft stock this season. He's currently averaging 8.9 points, 3.2 rebounds on 52, 50, 70 shooting splits. Just to further kind of illuminate how absurd his shooting numbers are, he's in the 99th percentile in overall points per possession, 98th percentile shooting off the catch, 89th percentile shooting off the dribble, 98th percentile on all jumpers, and 94th percentile spotting up. So this is a guy who had a major knee injury, or at least we thought so, a couple weeks before the season started, and then checked in on opening night and threw me through a loop, and has now started to actually get legitimate minutes on almost a nightly basis. And it kind of seems like the consensus on draft Twitter is a little higher than some other outlets. But Corey, I want to start with you. How high do you think AJ could end up going on draft night?
I don't see why he couldn't go top 5. I think that health obviously has to stay trending in the right direction. Wouldn't hurt to have a big tourney. But I think his physical gifts and the way that he's just tailor-made size-wise for the modern NBA, like, it's easy to see a path to success for him. You add in the fact that, like, he's a guy who comes from an NBA family. I know Rucker loves that. Like, this is a guy who's been around the game forever. And I'm not sure, but after 3, like, is there any certainty? Does anybody feel super comfortable? And every draft, there's a wild card who gets taken a little bit higher than they're expecting. I don't see why he couldn't go as early as 4. I think he probably will not go 4, but it wouldn't shock me if he did. And I just, the numbers are insane, and the volume is starting to creep up to a spot where you're like, all right, this isn't actually just low volume anymore. Like, this is a large sample of games, and he's getting real minutes now, and, like, he's still shooting like this. And I don't think he's a 50% shooter in the NBA. If Aaron Naismith has taught us anything, we shouldn't look at that number.
Would you stop it with my Celtics hatred? This is really, like, I held my breath with all the Tatum stuff.
But I think that, yeah, like, he reminds me of, you know, the Jimmy Butler, Jaylen Brown type of wing, and those guys are just really good basketball players in the modern NBA. So I think he's going to be a very high lottery pick, and if he drops, he's, like, to me, the guy in this draft that you look back and go, man, how did he fall? It was so obvious. Oh, because he hurt his ankle in high school? Like, what? Like, so I think he's going to go super high.
And another guy on Duke whose defense I'm really not worried about at all is Mark Williams, who's currently averaging 10.1 points, 7.1 rebounds, and 3.2 blocks. I absolutely adore the way he defends the pick and roll, the way he flips his hips and slides his feet and just really contains and then protects the rim, I think is really special and maybe the best in the class currently. But Corey, I know that you've been really high on Mark Williams for a while now. So what has led you to that optimism or that love of his game for pretty much the entire season?
I think that he's just a guy that it's easy to see what he's going to be in the NBA. Like, we don't have to imagine how he's going to fit into an offense. Like, a team isn't going to be like, all right, let's run a bunch of horn sets where we give him the ball at the elbow and make him make plays and find cutters and stuff. Like, that's not going to be his game. He's going to, you know, hopefully go to a team that has, like, a high usage pick and roll ball handler, and that's just going to throw him 10 lobs a game that he's going to finish with his 7'7" wingspan. And every once in a while, maybe he pops out to 15 feet and shows that he's got a little bit of touch there in the NBA. So, like, and then defensively, like you said, he's going to be a scheme versatile big. He's going to be able to come over from the weak side and clean up a mess. He's going to be able to play in a drop and use that 7'7" wingspan to, you know, contest shots. He's going to be able, I think he's quick enough to like hard hedge and recover down to his man and get back. So I just think that you could do so much with him defensively, and I don't have to worry about what he's going to be offensively because I've seen this guy succeed so many times. As soon as they get to a spot where you have a point guard or an initiator that knows how to throw a lob pass or a pocket pass. So the reason I've been like, no, this guy is good. He's going to be a first rounder, potential guy who goes maybe in the 15 to 20 range or whatever. Is I could just see a team like a Charlotte, like, hey, we kind of need like an athletic center. We don't know how long Kai Jones is going to take, and Kai Jones, the bet on him was all the versatility, and he could do this, he could do that. Like, how about LaMelo just throws a bunch of alley-oops to Mark Williams? Like, that's just easy to project. So that's the reason I'm high on him, because it's simple. I don't have to overthink this. I don't have to worry about what he can or can't do down the line. The things I know that he can do are going to be efficient and effective. And if down the line he shows he could shoot a three-pointer, awesome. But he's not going to need to do that to get on the floor.
I couldn't agree more. And the simplicity to his game is awesome. You dropped a bomb on us in the chat the other day that you think just Paolo's a really damn good basketball player. So what brought you to such a revelation?
Controversial.
Hot take.
I think we're just like overthinking him, and I feel like a lot of the guys he's been compared to, he's been compared to Carmelo, or he's been compared to another Duke player that got drafted by Milwaukee that didn't exactly pan out, mostly due to injuries. But I think the guys he's compared to has almost hurt the type of player that he is. But if he became Carmelo Anthony, that's damn sure a win. For me, I was actually pretty down on him as like before the season, watching his high school tape, because I thought it was just like the most frustrating thing in the world to watch, because here's this gigantic person who looks massive and he looked like Schwarzenegger compared to high school kids, and you were like, can you just like try to rebound, because you should get every one. But then he would do the Paolo thing where he's like taking the ball up the court and like hitting a combo move jump shot. Then, the next possession, he'd like settle for like some stupid mid-range fall away. But then the next possession, he would like take the ball to the hoop. And it seemed like he just could do whatever he wanted when he wanted. He just didn't want to do it enough. But seeing him this season, I almost feel like he's taken most of the stuff that I didn't like about him out of his game, and he's made a much more concerted effort to emphasize the strong parts. So kudos to Coach K and those guys for bringing that out of him. Sure, he still takes his fair amount of like pull up mid-range jumpers, but like he's fucking good at them. And he's done a good enough job for me of mixing that up with attacking the rim or, backing guys down into the paint to getting shots that are efficient, that I go, all right, like, I'm not opposed to him shooting some mid-range jumpers, because that's a shot he's going to be able to hit in the NBA as well. The three-point shot, I think, sometimes looks smooth. Other times it looks a little clunky. I think it has a lot to do with his base. But it's projectable enough, and he hits enough of them at a high enough clip that, like, if you don't guard him, like, he'll make you pay eventually. And I do think teams will go under early on in his career, but eventually I feel confident enough that he'll hit him. And I think he's kind of underrated as a defender at this point. I really think people almost want him to not be a good defender. But if you actually watch him enough, and I've watched so much because he's the next guy I'm covering for a film sesh, when he's isolated on somebody, I almost feel like he's swallowing them. He's just engulfing them, and it's like unbelievably hard to score on him or get a good shot. He does fall asleep off ball sometimes. He doesn't have his head on a swivel necessarily, but like he's in the right spots, and that's encouraging. He's even taken a few charges, which I like, giving up his body. So I almost feel like we're overthinking this thing to a certain extent, but for good reason, because Chet's fucking awesome and like severely underrated at this point. And Jabari's been, phenomenal the whole year. So I get why we're not just like falling head over heels for Paolo, because I think traditionally people are sick of that kind of archetype and wondering if it leads to winning basketball. But I just think the kid is like dumb talented, and I mean, I saw him up close in person. He is every bit the 6'10", 250 he's listed at, and he's going to impact NBA games. I think he has one of the highest floors out of any of these guys.